There are parts of you that don't have names, but they move your thoughts, shape your desires, and whisper things into your soul that logic cannot explain. Sometimes you react too strongly. Other times, you pull away from love without knowing why. There's a hidden energy in you, feminine or masculine, that has never fully been seen, not by others, and maybe not even by yourself. Carl Jung called these inner forces the Anima and Animus. They are the feminine soul within the man, and the masculine spirit within the woman. Most people ignore them, but when you do, they don't disappear. They take over your dreams, your relationships, your sense of peace. This video is not about gender. It's about wholeness. It's about understanding why you feel torn inside, and how to begin restoring the harmony between your inner feminine and masculine. By the end, you'll not only understand Jung's Anima and Animus, you'll see yourself more clearly, and perhaps finally come home to who you truly are. Chapter 1. What are the Anima and Animus? There is a mystery in every human soul, a quiet presence living within you, just beneath awareness, not your thoughts, not your memories. Something older, something inherited. Carl Jung believed that every man carries within him a hidden feminine soul, and every woman carries a hidden masculine spirit. He called them the Anima and the Animus. These are not just psychological concepts. They are living energies within the unconscious. They show up in your dreams, in your fantasies, in the way you fall in love, and the way you sabotage yourself. The Anima is the soul image of woman inside the male psyche. It is emotion, intuition, tenderness, creativity, and chaos. She is the inner presence who brings softness and depth to the masculine mind. But when repressed, she becomes a force of confusion, making the man overly sensitive, reactive, or romantically obsessed. The Animus, on the other hand, is the spirit image of man inside the female psyche. He is will, logic, structure, power, and clarity. He helps the woman make decisions, set boundaries, speak her truth. But when distorted or unbalanced, he becomes rigid, cold, or critical, a voice that tells her to shut down her feelings and harden her heart. These two inner forces are archetypes, universal patterns that live in all of us, shaped by generations of culture, mythology, and personal experience. From childhood, we begin forming these inner images. A boy watches his mother, not just her actions, but the emotional atmosphere she carries, how she responds to pain, how she shows love, how she uses silence or anger or affection. All of it becomes part of the Anima image within him. Likewise, a girl watches her father, his presence or his absence, his strength or his instability, the way he protects, the way he speaks, the way he handles stress or power or failure. This becomes her Animus, the masculine voice inside her that later whispers in every decision, in every relationship. But the Anima and Animus are not just shaped by our parents. They are also formed by culture, religion, stories, songs, the roles we are told to play, what it means to be a man or a woman, are absorbed unconsciously. Jung believed that unless we confront these inner figures, they will take over our lives. We don't just love people. We often fall in love with our own projection of the Anima or Animus, that idealized inner image we've carried for years. That's why some loves feel hypnotic, intoxicating, spiritual, because they are not about the person in front of us. They're about the part of ourself that we never claimed, now suddenly reflected back at us through another. When a man has not made peace with his Anima, he may become moody, overly emotional, or drawn to women who rescue him emotionally, then destroy him. He may romanticize women as divine muses or cruel seductresses, because his inner feminine is fragmented. When a woman has not made peace with her Animus, she may feel the need to control every situation, distrust vulnerability, or seek relationships where she is emotionally distant but mentally dominant. Her inner masculine is ungrounded, so she pushes others away. Jung saw this as a tragedy, because both energies are sacred. We are not meant to live in polarity. We are meant to become whole. To do that, we must stop projecting the anima and animus outward and start meeting them within. This is the path of individuation, the sacred journey of becoming your true self. It begins by noticing these inner figures, dialoguing with them, listening to the dreams and fantasies they carry, and slowly integrating them. The goal is not to become more masculine or more feminine, but to create a living balance between the two, so that your strength is softened by compassion, and your tenderness is held by clarity. The anima and animus are not enemies. They are inner guides, waiting to be known, waiting to be welcomed, waiting to help you return to your soul. Chapter 2. How Anima and Animus Sabotage Our Relationships. Sometimes, the person we fall in love with isn't real, not because they're lying to us, but because we're seeing them through a lens made of longing, memory, and unhealed parts of ourselves. Carl Jung warned that when the anima and animus are unconscious, they don't disappear. They project themselves onto the people we desire the most. You don't just meet someone, you meet the story inside you, the ideal lover, the missing part, the rescuer, the mystery, and you pour that story onto someone else, believing it's love, when it's actually a reflection of your inner soul trying to speak. This is how the anima and animus quietly sabotage our relationships. A man who hasn't integrated his anima may become obsessed with a woman not because of who she is, but because she embodies the image he's been carrying since childhood. She becomes a fantasy, ethereal, mystical, emotionally overwhelming. And when she fails to live up to that ideal, because no real human can, he swings between worship and resentment, desire and disappointment. In that cycle, he isn't loving her. He's loving the version of himself that he never allowed to live. Likewise, a woman dominated by her animus may struggle to truly connect. She may see vulnerability as weakness. She might be attracted to men who are emotionally distant because they confirm her belief that closeness is dangerous. Her inner masculine becomes a harsh inner critic, whispering that she must stay strong, independent, unshakable, even if it means being alone. She may even push love away, not because she doesn't want it, but because her animus has taught her that emotional surrender is unsafe. This internal sabotage is subtle. It doesn't announce itself. It comes in the form of small patterns, the same arguments, the same disappointments, the same magnetic draw to the wrong person. You think, why do I always attract unavailable people? Why do I fall for someone and then feel empty after? Why do I keep choosing the same kind of partner again and again? Jung would say, you are not choosing them consciously. Your anima or animus is doing the choosing. They are searching for something unresolved, something missing. You project your inner feminine or masculine onto someone else, hoping they'll complete you. But projection is a fragile thing. When the illusion breaks, so does the relationship. And this is the painful truth. As long as we don't see these inner forces, we will continue to expect others to fulfill what we've abandoned inside ourselves. We'll want someone to understand us without words, because we don't yet understand our own emotional depths. We'll want someone to make us feel safe, because our inner masculine has been silent for years. This leads to heartbreak, not because we are broken, but because we are seeking healing through the wrong mirror. Jung called this a kind of spiritual blindness, not seeing others as they truly are, only seeing who we need them to be. This is why relationships often feel so intense at first, why we fall in love so quickly, so completely, and why it crashes just as fast, because it wasn't love. It was projection. True love can only exist after projection ends. Only when we reclaim what we projected, and begin to love the real person in front of us. But to do that, we must first turn inward. We must ask, what part of me have I silenced? What energy in me, masculine or feminine, have I disowned? Am I using romance to find a piece of myself? When you begin answering these questions, you start seeing people differently. Not as saviors, not as villains, but as fellow souls, each carrying their own wounds, each worthy of being seen for who they are. The Anima and Animus are not enemies of love. They are its teachers. They show you where you've split inside, and how healing that split is the beginning of real intimacy. Because the truth is, you cannot truly connect with another until you have made peace with what lives inside you. Chapter 3. Signs you're dominated by the Anima or Animus. Most people live their entire lives unaware of the unconscious voices steering their decisions. They think their reactions are just personality. Their obsessions are passion. Their emotional spirals are justified. But Jung understood something deeper. That behind many of our strongest behaviors is a silent puppeteer, the Anima or the Animus, acting without our consent. When these inner forces are unexamined, they don't stay quiet. They take control, shaping our relationships, our beliefs, and our emotional habits from the shadows. So how do you know if you're being dominated by your Anima or Animus? There are signs, not loud, but consistent. Not dramatic, but quietly destructive. Let's begin with the Anima, the inner feminine within the male psyche. When the Anima is unconscious or distorted, a man may 1. Fall in love too quickly, then crash just as fast. He doesn't fall for a person. He falls for a dream. A woman becomes his savior, muse, or goddess. But soon, the illusion breaks. Because she cannot carry the weight of his projection. He's chasing a part of himself, not seeing her clearly. 2. Experience mood, swings that feel uncontrollable. He may feel deep melancholy, sudden euphoria, irrational fear, without knowing where it comes from. The unintegrated Anima moves through his emotions like a tide, pulling him into confusion. 3. Idealize women, or resent them. He places them on a pedestal, then blames them for not staying there. His relationships are intense, but unstable. He either clings or retreats, not understanding why he can't find balance. 4. Be overly dependent on emotional validation. He may fear abandonment deeply, or need constant reassurance. This stems from a wounded Anima, often shaped by early maternal experiences. 5. Dream of mysterious women, oceans, darkness, or being pulled underwater. In Jungian psychology, these symbols often represent the unconscious feminine calling for integration. Now let's look at the Animus, the inner masculine within the female psyche. When the Animus is unbalanced, a woman may 1. Struggle to trust others, especially men. She may become emotionally guarded, even in love, not because she doesn't feel, but because the inner Animus tells her that vulnerability is unsafe. 2. Feel a constant inner pressure to be strong, successful, or in control. This isn't ambition. It's a harsh inner voice that says, you must never be weak. The Animus, when distorted, becomes a tyrant instead of a guide. 3. Argue or debate in her mind constantly. Jung noted that women dominated by the Animus often experience a talking crowd of male voices in their inner world. She may feel mentally overloaded, overthinking every decision, doubting her instincts. 4. Dismiss or devalue her own emotions. Rather than allowing grief, softness, or intuition, she rationalizes everything. The Animus replaces feeling with logic, leaving her disconnected from her inner world. 5. Dream of cold men, tall towers, broken bridges, or machinery. These images may point to the overactive or rigid masculine principle within. What makes all of this so difficult to notice is that it often feels normal. If you've lived your whole life believing your emotional chaos is just how you are, or your fear of intimacy is just wisdom from past wounds, you may never pause to ask, whose voice is this? Is this really me, or someone inside me I haven't yet met? Jung's work asks us to slow down, to question our patterns, to trace our emotional storms to their true origin. When you feel overpowered by emotion, ask, is this my anima calling for integration? When you feel like shutting the world out, ask, is this my animus trying to protect something I haven't yet healed? It's not about blaming these energies. They're not your enemy. They're fragments of you, waiting to come home. The goal isn't to silence them. The goal is to make them conscious, to sit with them, to listen, to understand what they've been trying to say all along. And here's something beautiful. Once you begin to recognize these patterns, you take your power back. You no longer fall in love with projections. You no longer chase what cannot satisfy you. You no longer confuse inner wounds with outer truth. You begin to love with clarity. You begin to feel with maturity. You begin to live as a soul that knows itself, both the masculine and the feminine. Because when you are no longer ruled by these unconscious forces, you are free to live from a place of balance, a place of strength, and a place of peace. Chapter 4. How to integrate the Anima and Animus. Integration does not begin with force. It begins with noticing. For many people, the Anima and Animus feel distant, like abstract concepts or symbols in a book. But once you understand they're not ideas, but living presences within your soul, you realize that integration is not about mastering something. It's about meeting someone inside you that you've ignored for years. To integrate the Anima or Animus is to recognize them as parts of your inner family, not to suppress, avoid, or romanticize them, but to listen, to understand, to bring them into conscious relationship. So where do you begin? You begin by turning inward, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Ask yourself, when I feel overwhelmed emotionally, who is speaking? When I shut down and grow cold, who is protecting me? When I long for someone to complete me, what part of me have I left behind? This is the foundation, inner dialogue. Jung often spoke of active imagination, a practice where you engage with these inner figures directly. In a quiet space, close your eyes. Picture the Anima or Animus. Don't force their image. Let them come naturally. A woman with moonlight in her eyes. A man standing beside a fire. A whisper. A presence. A dreamlike voice. Ask them questions. Let them answer. Let the conversation unfold like a dream. This is not fantasy. This is the language of the unconscious. Next, begin observing your relationships as mirrors. Every time you feel irrationally drawn to someone, or deeply repelled, pause and ask, what am I seeing in them that belongs to me? If you're a man, ask, is this woman reflecting my inner anima, my emotional world, my intuition, my sensitivity? If you're a woman, ask, is this man reflecting my inner animus, my need for structure, strength, or protection? When you feel love that overwhelms you, when you feel repulsion that consumes you, you are likely standing in front of a projection. Bring it home. Say inwardly, this is mine. This emotion, this image, this desire, it's not about them. It's about me. Then comes the daily practice of balance. For men, begin honoring your emotions even when they don't make sense. Create space for quiet, for softness, for mystery. Learn to listen without fixing. Let go of the fear that sensitivity is weakness. For women, begin trusting your voice, even when it feels confrontational. Speak your truth clearly, without apology. Make space for structure, for logic, for assertiveness. Let go of the belief that strength makes you unlovable. Integration also happens in the body. Notice how you carry yourself when you're dominated by the animus. Tight jaw, crossed arms, rigid spine. Or when you're ruled by the anima, slumped shoulders, trembling hands, eyes full of tears. Instead of fighting those sensations, stay with them. Feel them. Breathe into them. Ask what they're trying to say. Let the body become a map for your healing. Dreamwork is another powerful doorway. Keep a journal. Write down every dream, especially those with recurring male or female figures. These are messengers. They are often the anima and animus in symbolic form, knocking gently on the doors of your consciousness. Don't interpret them too quickly. Let them speak over time. Integration is not an instant transformation. It is a slow reunion, a sacred weaving, a remembering of something ancient, something whole. And here is the most important part. You are not integrating the anima or animus to become perfect. You are integrating them to become real. To live as a human being who is not split in half. To stop needing others to carry your unlived parts. To stop confusing love with rescue. To stop fearing your own strength or softness. When you integrate your anima, you become a man who can feel deeply, create beauty, and hold pain without drowning in it. When you integrate your animus, you become a woman who can speak with clarity, stand with power, and move forward without closing her heart. You become balanced, not neutral, but alive on both ends of the soul. Jung said it this way: the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And to do that, you must welcome every part of you home. Chapter 5. Carl Jung's Final Wisdom. Why inner union matters. We spend much of our lives searching outside ourselves, for connection, for recognition, for wholeness. We long for that one person who will complete us, who will see us, who will finally make us feel safe, or alive, or understood. But Carl Jung gently turns our gaze inward. He tells us, the real union you seek is not with another. It is with yourself. The anima and animus are not there to be projected outward forever. They are sacred invitations to reclaim what you have forgotten, to become what you were always meant to be. Jung called this process the inner marriage. It is the moment when the masculine and feminine energies within you stop fighting and begin listening to each other. It is when your will no longer overpowers your emotion, and your emotion no longer drowns your direction. It is when the voice that says, "Stay strong," finally sits beside the voice that says, "I'm scared," and they hold space for each other, without shame. This union creates something powerful, not perfection, but integration. You begin to feel whole, even when alone. You begin to love, not from need, but from presence. You stop seeking someone to fix you, because you are no longer split inside. This does not mean you won't desire connection, but the desire will feel different. It will be grounded, clear, compassionate. You will no longer see your partner as a mirror for your unlived parts. You will see them as a soul on their own journey, and love will become an offering, not a transaction. Jung warned that when the anima and animus are unconscious, they distort how we relate to others. We either chase illusions or reject truth. We lose ourselves in fantasies of love or armor ourselves with fear. But when we make these energies conscious, when we begin the inner dialogue, we open the door to something rare, authenticity. You start showing up fully. You speak with both strength and softness. You listen without losing yourself. You act without aggression. You trust your intuition, and you honor your logic. You become the bridge between opposites. This is the alchemical marriage Jung spoke of, not in the outer world, but in the sacred laboratory of your soul. It is a spiritual event, Not dramatic, not loud, but quiet, steady, and transformative. You begin noticing changes. You're no longer triggered by the same type of person. Your dreams grow clearer, more symbolic. You stop needing others to validate your worth. Your creativity flows more freely. Your loneliness begins to feel like solitude. Your anger softens into clarity. Your heartbreak transforms into compassion. This is what Jung meant when he said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Inner union is not about escaping pain. It's about holding both your light and your shadow in the same breath, without collapsing. It's about becoming a soul that can stay present with life as it is, not as you wish it would be. You stop running from your femininity or masculinity. You stop fearing your own softness or power. You realize they were never enemies. They were never meant to be at war. They were only waiting for you to listen. And in that moment of inner union, something opens. You begin to feel a quiet joy, not happiness based on circumstances, but joy that comes from belonging to yourself. You feel more deeply, but souffle less. You speak more clearly, but with gentleness. You stand taller, but without needing to be loud. This is the gift of integration, to live in harmony within, so that you can live in harmony with others. So if you're still searching for someone to save you, someone to finally make you whole, pause and ask yourself, what part of me have I abandoned? What part of me have I projected outward, hoping someone else would carry it? Because the person you are waiting for may be the voice inside you you've been ignoring. And the moment you welcome them, the moment you invite both the anima and the animus to sit at your table, you become something rare. A soul that no longer needs to be completed. A soul that can love without losing itself. A soul that has come home. Chapter 6. A quiet invitation to inner balance. There comes a moment when all the knowledge in the world is no longer enough. When words lose their weight. When concepts, like anima and animus, are no longer just theories, but become living presences that ask to be felt, not explained. This moment doesn't arrive with fireworks. It comes quietly, in the stillness between thoughts, in the breath before you react, in the ache that rises when you're alone and can no longer distract yourself. It is here, in this soft silence, that balance begins. Carl Jung never asked us to be perfect. He asked us to be whole. And wholeness does not come from forcing yourself into harmony. It comes from listening to the parts of you you've been avoiding. So today, instead of trying to fix your emotions, feel them. Instead of controlling your reactions, observe them. Instead of searching for love outside, look gently within. Ask yourself, when was the last time I honored my softness without shame? When was the last time I stood in my strength without fear? When was the last time I allowed both voices inside me to speak? Not to compete, but to collaborate? You don't need to choose between logic and intuition, between action and surrender, between firmness and grace. You were never meant to live on one side of yourself. Balance is not a destination. It is a relationship, a quiet, evolving relationship between your inner masculine and inner feminine. You will not get it right every day. You will falter. Sometimes your animus will rise in defensiveness, cutting, sharp, afraid to trust. Other times, your anima will flood you with longing, sadness, or confusion. But now you know, these moments are not failures. They are invitations. Each emotional wave is a message. Each inner reaction is a chance to pause and ask, what part of me is speaking right now, and what does it need? This is where healing becomes possible, not in eliminating your opposites, but in letting them sit at the same table. Let your animus protect your boundaries, and let your anima teach you when to soften them. Let your anima show you the world, through feeling, and let your animus give those feelings direction. Let them learn to trust each other. It won't be easy. There will be days when the old patterns return, when you lose yourself in projection, when you repeat a familiar mistake. Be kind to yourself in those moments, because even in the returning, you are learning. Even in the pattern, you are being given a second chance to choose differently. Balance doesn't look like stillness. It looks like movement with awareness, like walking a path where the ground shifts beneath you, but you no longer panic, because you've learned to hear both voices inside, and you're not afraid to stop and listen. You may start to notice this balance in your daily life, in the way you speak, firm yet kind, in the way you respond, clear but open, in the way you love, not desperately, but deliberately, in the way you lead, not to dominate, but to guide, in the way you follow, not from weakness, but from trust. This is what Jung meant when he described the individuated self, not a perfect being, but a human soul who has made peace with all of itself. So today, don't try to fix what feels out of place. Just begin noticing. Notice when your animus rises in defense. Notice when your anima pulls you into sorrow. Notice when the child in you seeks safety through control or fantasy. And gently say to yourself, I see you. You are part of me, and we are learning to live together. You don't need a grand ritual. You don't need to get it right all at once. All you need is presence and willingness. Because once you begin listening to these parts within you, truly listening, you become something rare. A human being in harmony with their own soul, not because you've silenced your contradictions, but because you've made room for them. And that quiet room inside you, the one where both the anima and animus are welcome, is the beginning of your return to peace. If this message spoke to something deep inside you, if it gave language to a part of your soul you've struggled to understand, you are not alone. The journey of integrating the anima and animus is not linear. It's tender, it's sacred, and it takes time. But every moment you spend in self-awareness, every pause before you react, every quiet conversation with your inner voice, is a step toward wholeness. So I invite you now, share in the comments. What part of this spoke to you most? Have you noticed your inner masculine or feminine playing out in your life? Let this be more than a video. Let it be a beginning. If you found peace, clarity, or encouragement here, please like the video, subscribe for more Jungian reflections and healing insights, and share this with someone who might be searching for balance within themselves. You are not half of a soul. You are already whole. And the more you listen inward, the more that truth will reveal itself, gently and fully, in time.